Welcome to the Wheel Question, brought to you by Jazzability Productions. Let's do this! Today, the Wheel Question is, what impact is the cost of living having on the disabled community? My name is Jazz, and I'm your host, and welcome to the show. Today I'll be talking about the cost of living crisis impacting the disabled, mainly in the UK and also globally. This is an issue that often goes unseen and unheard. So I'm going to be breaking it down, looking at the causes and effects, and exploring what can be done to alleviate the situation. So, let's dive in. The cost of living crisis is a global issue that has been affecting people all over the world. There are many factors that have contributed to this global crisis, including the increasing cost of goods and services, inflation, and decline in the value of various currencies. One of the main reasons why the cost of living has become so difficult to afford is because of the increase in the price of energy and food. The price of energy has increased due to increased demand and competition from other countries, while the price of food has increased due to changes in the global agriculture market, drought conditions, and increased spending on security measures by major food producers. The Conservative government in the UK is facing increasing pressure to address the worsening crisis of living costs. With inflation running at its highest level for 30 years and household energy bills rose by a record amount from last April. The UK has taken a number of steps in an attempt to try and tackle the cost of living crisis, such as offering a rebate to all UK households on their energy bills starting October 2022, while one-off benefits were given to around 6 million people who received disability payments began in 2022. As I said earlier, that inflation has caused a dramatic crisis in cost of living, with bills rising more rapidly for households across Britain than actual wages for working people, and heating costs rose by a massive 54%. The rapid rise in energy costs, especially wholesale prices for natural gas, has been the main factor driving increases in inflation. Pressures on living costs are also rising as the Russian invasion of Ukraine has also driven up inflation. The Conservative Party, who are the current government in the UK, and they have been in power for almost 13 years now. They would have you believe that the high rise in inflation is because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing war there, but also because of the COVID pandemic, which started at the end of 2019. Well, yes, those two issues is part of the reason why the inflation rate is so high and it's causing the cost of living crisis. But what the Conservative government won't tell you or won't mention is that their policy of austerity measures and the many cutbacks they have made to public services, and also bringing the National Health Service down to its knees, and much more over the last 13 years or so, has also contributed massively to the cost of living crisis we are facing today. Despite the introduction of the energy cost price cap in September 2022, the real wages for people who are in work are not keeping pace with inflation. And the energy cost for a typical British household has increased by 80% since October 2022, which is just insane. And one may wonder, how can one survive in this cost of living crisis? Also, get this, the average wage in real terms was higher almost 13 years ago than what it is now. And this is just absolutely crazy. Amongst all this, the Bank of England has had to raise their interest rate, and this has been the biggest rate increase in 27 years. And this has increased people's borrowing costs, such as mortgages, for example. And this has meant an extra increase of around £400 to £600 a month on top of what people are already paying with their mortgage. This is due to the disastrous mini-autumn budget in 2022 by the Conservative government, which cost the job of then Prime Minister. So, the cost of living crisis has had a massive impact on the disabled community all throughout the world. As rent, food, and utility bills rise, disabled people are often left to struggle on an inadequate income and without enough to cover the cost of daily necessities. This is an increasingly worrying problem, particularly in the UK, with disabled people often pushed into poverty due to limited financial assistance and increasing cost of living. A research by a charity called Scope showing that disabled adults are more than twice as likely to be living in poverty compared to a non-disabled adult. Some economic research analysts have noted that disabled people are more likely to have lower incomes than non-disabled people, and more likely to have one-off large expenses such as purchasing specialist equipment or adapting homes. A combination of this, coupled with the rise of cost of living, leaves many disabled people at a disadvantage and unable to meet increasing costs of basics like utility bills and rent and food. The cost of living crisis is further compounded by inadequate financial assistance, with nearly 2/3 of disabled people relying on state support to keep them out of poverty. Even this support is often not enough, as the lack of available benefits and the increasingly stringent criteria to receive them leaves people unable to qualify for the help they need. This crisis has had a serious effect on disabled people's lives, leading to health and mobility issues, worsening mental health, the inability to access adequate health care, and also suffering from depression and isolation. An additional burden is the social stigma attached to disabled people and poverty, which can cause additional stress, leading to further problems. This situation is far from ideal, but fortunately, there are help and support systems available to disabled people to help alleviate the cost of living crisis. Here in the UK, various charities and government support services offer financial help, advice, support groups, and legal advice. There are other initiatives such as Access to Work Scheme, which provides support to disabled people to help them find or stay in work, as well as a range of grants and benefits such as employment and support allowance and personal independent payment. The cost of living crisis and its effect on disabled people is an issue of international concern, and throughout the world, countries are attempting to implement measures to alleviate the hardship it causes. In the EU, the European Disability Strategy seeks to ensure that disabled people have access to the same opportunities in employment, education, healthcare, leisure, and other services. In the USA, the Americans with Disability Act of 1990 provide disabled people with civil rights protections against discrimination in employment, public accommodation, transportation, and other activities. Despite all these initiatives, there is still much work to be done, and disabled people all over the world continue to face the burden of cost of living crisis. In the UK, it is essential that people are aware of support and services available, and that government ensures that benefits are sufficient and that financial assistance is readily and easily accessed to those who need it the most. Aided by better understanding the issues and the impact it has on disabled people, various governing bodies should work together to improve the lives of the disabled community. Despite with the help available, the UK government has failed to adequately address the cost of living crisis facing the disabled community. Despite being one of the world's most advanced economies, the UK has not done enough to ensure that disabled individuals have the resources they need to survive and thrive in the current economic climate. This failure has left many disabled people struggling to make ends meet and unable to access the services they need to lead a full and happy life. One of the most glaring issues is the lack of adequate financial assistance for disabled people. The Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, provides disability benefits to those unable to work. Disability living allowance, attending allowance, and personal independence payment are all available to those who are eligible. I have mentioned some of these benefits earlier, but these payments do not always cover the cost of living. The Access to Work scheme provides grants to disabled individuals to help them remain in work, but these are limited and often inadequate. In addition, many disabled people struggle to find employment due to lack of suitable jobs and employers' reluctance to hire disabled individuals. The UK government has also cut back on services for disabled people, leaving many without the support they need. The closures of day centres and social services has left disabled individuals without access to vital services, such as respite care, which can help provide much needed relief from the stress of living with a disability. In addition, the reduction or withdrawal of benefits such as disability living allowance and personal independence payment have had a negative effect on disabled people, making it harder for them to access necessary services and activities. However, despite all the doom and gloom, there is support available to help disabled people deal with the financial stress they face, both in the UK and around the world. Here I will outline some of the ways people with disability can access help and advice to get through this difficult period. Now, I have already mentioned that disabled people can apply for different types of benefits to help them. But what other kind of help is available? Well, the national charity Disabled Rights UK provides advice, training and campaigning for people with disabilities. They can advise on benefits and financial help, as well as providing advice on how to access health and social care services. Additionally, the charity's helpline can provide vital support on subjects such as housing benefits, employment, education, and transport. There's also an organization called Citizen Advice Bureau, which offers free independent advice and help on issues such as debt, finances, employment, and housing. The charity has a number of local centres across the country in the UK, as well as an online advice service. Additionally, they also offer a phone line and email service to provide advice on any financial issues that people with disabilities may have. Turn to Us is a charity that helps people in financial crisis. On their website, they provide tools to help people calculate how much benefit they may be eligible for, as well as information about the support available for disabled people. The charity has a network of advisors who are experts in helping people with disabilities managing their finances and understand their rights. In addition to the support available from charities, there are a number of national and international organizations that work to promote and encourage disabled people's rights. The World Health Organization plays a key role in advocating for disability rights, including the right to have access to quality health care and the right to live independently. Additionally, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities provides a global commitment to improving the lives of people with disabilities. The charities I have just mentioned are all in the UK, so in your country it might be a little bit different, and it's always worth doing some research to see what is available that can help you. And so, as you know, there is support available for disabled people by getting help from certain charities. but this is by no means guaranteed, and some accessing benefits from making use of the advice from charities and organizations. There is a range of help available, but as often is the case, it usually still leaves many disabled people struggling to make ends meet. The UK government say they are committed to providing strong support to those with disabilities, and that they will continue to develop and implement strategies to deprioritize disabilities, promote choice, independence, and respect of rights. But so far, in my eyes, they have truly failed to support the disabled people fully, as the cost of living crisis is real for the disabled community. The accommodation and food costs can be astronomical for people with complex needs, and even basic necessities can be extortionately expensive. So how effectively will the new cost of living payment, which was announced in 2022, protect different types of households from increases in cost of living? The payment announced by the Conservative government are welcome, but they are deeply insufficient for the horrendous cost of living crisis situation that the disabled community has faced and are still facing. They also do not address the needs and problems of people who care for the disabled, because people receiving carers benefit were not included in any of the target support groups announced in May 2022. Disabled people have faced over a decade of erosion of living standards. A report by the Equality and Human Rights Commission in 2017 showed that disabled people have been the worst affected by the government's austerity program, with cash losses over £5,500 per year since 2010. In percentage terms, this is a loss of over 13% of their net income on average. Losses have continued since this date, notably with the failure to include legacy benefits in the £20 uplift that was supplied to people receiving universal credit during the pandemic, and dramatically increasing costs for basic goods and services, including care, which many disabled people must pay towards themselves, including from means-tested benefits. It is very expensive to be disabled, as they face paying for additional needs and specialist equipment that is not provided on the NHS or through disability benefits. Scope, the charity, calculated that in 2019, the average disabled person has to spend £583 per month, more than the equivalent of a non-disabled person to achieve the same quality of life. For 1 in 5 of us, the extra amount we had to pay was over £1,000. These additional costs will now be even higher due to the massive price increases. Extra cost benefits designed to address the additional costs, for example, promoting independent payment, disability living allowance, and attendance allowance, are insufficient and have never been pegged to the actual amount of extra cost disabled people face. Disabled people energy needs are higher on average than those of non-disabled people. Many disabled people need to use heating more often and to use electricity to charge mobility equipment or run medical devices, and to operate washing machines and other domestic appliances more often. Some disabled people and some parents with disabled children need the heating on all the time, and medical equipment, including oxygen concentrator, suction machines, nebulizer, saturation monitor, ventilators, and medication switch, plugged in all day and every day to prevent life-threatening illness. Last year, the energy price cap increased by 54%, making household energy bills even more expensive. So many disabled people's direct debits for gas and electricity rose to just over £1,000 per month, which is just over £12,000 annually. Some disabled people or their parents have managed to negotiate with their energy suppliers to bring the cost down to near £500 a month, which is still so expensive for paying energy bills. So they would be worried that paying this much a month, they may not even have enough for essential uses, leaving them in arrears of their energy bills. Many still cannot afford the negotiated price of around £500 a month. So the disabled people's health will begin to suffer, as the health is reliant on many pieces of equipment just to survive and live. Some of the payments that the government has given to try and help the disabled community with their energy bill will barely touch the 1 month's worth of their energy bill increase. And yet the monthly energy bills are set to rise even more, let alone trying also to deal with the additional costs that have increased for the disabled people, and as well as non-disabled people. Now check this out. The Conservative government recently changed the criteria for the warm home discount, removing the priority given to people who receive the benefit called personal independent payment. This means that this winter many disabled people and their families have lost out the £150 discount they would have previously received on their energy bill. So, for many disabled people, the £150 one-off payment simply replaces what the government has just taken away. To me, this is absolutely ridiculous and very sneaky of the Conservative government, who then go on to paint the picture that they are really helping when in actual fact they are not really helping at all. The additional £650 cost of living payment to those also in receipt of is a welcome but also insufficient. It also covers less than the energy bills we expected last year and expecting this year, even though all the costs of the problems we are facing are not just caused by the high rate of inflation, although that has certainly increased the emergency. The benefit levels were already grossly insufficient for disabled people and carers' needs even before recent cost increases. Almost a third of all disabled people in the UK already lived in poverty before the surge in inflation, and after over a decade of erosion of social security and a disproportionate impact falls on disabled people and families and carers. A quarter of disabled people responding to a survey in February 2022 had missed meals or not heated their homes in the last year. People who care for disabled people also urgently need additional support, as the carers benefit was excluded from the targeted additional funds announced in May 2022. There is a massive concern about the position of disabled people and carers with no recourse to public funds status, who have and are still facing enormous price increases on top of existing extra costs with little or no support. In general, the cost of living crisis is having a negative impact on the ability of people to meet their basic needs. This is particularly true for people in developing countries, where the cost of living crisis has led to steep decline in living standards. In some cases, the cost of living crisis has even led to a widespread famine. As a result, the cost of living crisis is one of the key drivers of poverty and inequality around the world. The UK government, the Conservative Party, are always saying there is a lack of money to support people. And in fact, they are supporting people, but it is nowhere near enough. And I seem to remember on many occasions over the past few years, maybe longer than past few years, maybe 8-9 years, the Conservative government have wasted so many billions of pounds. So why they can't help the disabled community more than they are doing now? Well, they will tell you because it's a lack of money. You know, all you have to do is do some research and look up the amount of money they have wasted. And I am talking about billions and billions of pounds. So there we have it. The cost of living crisis is having an effect on everyone, whether you are disabled or not disabled. But specifically, it has more impact on the disabled community. As I've already said, they have more equipment to look after which uses more electricity. For example, I have 2 ceiling track hoists, which for 99% of the time they are always on charge. I have 2 ventilators, which are always plugged in as needed, because I need ventilation to manage my CO2 level. And I have a home alarm, which is always plugged in, you know, just in case of any emergency. So there you see. And my bills are really expensive. Currently I am struggling to pay my energy bill, but hopefully sooner or later I will get there. So I hope you're all safe out there, and I hope you're all managing somehow. And remember, there is help out there, so please look into it, do some research, and see what can be done to help you. Okay, this is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show and were able to take away something valuable. I want to remind you to follow me on our social media network to stay connected. On Facebook, you can find me at The Real Question. On Twitter, you can find me at Real Question. On Instagram, you can find me at The Real Question. You can also email me at therealquestion@gmail.com. Keep engaged with me online, as I would love to hear from you. And who knows, I may even reply. Your follows, likes and shares make all the difference and really help to build up this podcast and help it grow. So please spread the word. I would really appreciate it. Also, please subscribe to my podcast so that you'll be notified when a new episode is online to listen to and enjoy. Also, check back soon for more episodes. Until then, stay safe and thanks again for listening.